3 o'clock. I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting, our regular meeting for our Board of Directors to order for Seneca Healthcare District. Board members present, we have Ken, we have Sherry, we have Shelley, myself. We do not have Rich yet, but if he comes on, then we will note that for the minutes. Let's go ahead and rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. Okay, so today we will be meeting in closed session pursuant to Government Code 54956.9D1, conference with legal counsel, existing litigation, Velez versus SHD. Same government code, Robles versus SHD, Health and Safety Code 32106. Government Code 549571, Public Employee Performance Evaluation, Title Chief Executive Officer. Government Code 54957.6, Conference with Labor Negotiators, Agency Designated Representative, Board Chair, and Represented Employee, Chief Executive Officer. And with that, that would move us into our public comment period. If anyone has any comments, please be sure you limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Okay. Last week I was talking to my friend. No one likes to pay bills, but she was very pleased that she got her bill in a timely manner, not like before with different providers. So that is a plus.
Thank you.
Because I used to hear so many complaints about billing and.
Yeah, I want to give, thank you so much, Steve, our
Well,
chief.
I'm gonna complain, and I should tell you when there's something positive.
We appreciate it.
So Steve, I don't know if you heard that, but we got a public comment that the bill came timely, so we want to really appreciate your work in. We went to a new company and they seem to be doing well. So would you congratulate R1 for us?
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for that feedback.
Thank you.
I mean, I hear from the mature people that I speak, which has a different idea and stuff from the more younger ones. And when I say younger, anyone under 65.
Happy birthday.
84.
Wow.
Good for you.
Happy birthday. Thank you, belated. And I ate so much cake.
Okay. Let's see, are there any other public comments? There were none submitted prior to our meeting. Anyone have a hand raised online? Okay, then we'll go ahead and move on. Thank you. All right, next up, tab A, number 6, approval of board meeting minutes. Board members, you guys have a chance to review these minutes, and if you have any comments, clarifications, questions, well, I'll take a motion to approve them.
I move approval.
Thank you, Sherry. Do I have a second?
And second.
Thank you, Shelley. All in favor, Ken?
Right.
Shelley?
Aye.
Sherry?
Aye.
And I'll vote aye. Thank you. Okay, that moves us on to item number 7, New Critical Access Hospital Skilled Nursing Facility Commissioning Agent Selection. And I think, do we have Donna? Oh, I see Donna. Hi, Donna.
Yes.
Would you mind go ahead and speak to this, Donna?
Yes. So, in follow-up to last month's board meeting, where we had requested approval to contract with Capital Engineering for commissioning services for the new critical access hospital and skilled nursing facility. We followed up on the board's direction to work to have the approval to work with Capital to further refine their scope to a point where it was more clear what was being contracted, what was being proposed to be contracted to the board. So Linda McCurdy and I met with Capital and hashed out the scope. And the proposal you see from them attached to your board packet is the result of that clarification, along with the spreadsheet that shows a dollar amount of $231,150. Noting there is a budget line item, a budget for that line item of $200,000, so it is slightly over. but does incorporate the low voltage IT component that was also requested by the board. So ultimately, the ask of the board is for approval to proceed to contract with Capital Engineering for that total. Also noting that the my amount kind of noted below the line for alternate is not being proposed to be contracted at this time. We wanted to keep that amount identified and quantified, but the thought would be that we would put that as a potential for an ad alternate in the future, because we feel that likely the design and construction team can handle that without additional commissioning oversight for that scope.
Thank you, Donna. And can you speak to the differences between the three proposals at kind of a high level?
Sure. So the other two proposals do not have all the scope that we need. They don't, neither of them address the building envelope at all, which is very critical. Therefore it really was, it's not recommended to go with them because they can't provide the full scope of services that we need.
Thank you. And so you said they did work in the IT piece. I must have missed that. Do you have, you point me to it maybe?
Sure. Oh no, stay where you were. The last line item, that systems integration, is the IT component. And
Gotcha.
so
Okay, that's the part I didn't.
Yeah.
I was trying to squint at that. That's getting through there. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
And then the description is in the proposal of what that scope is. I'm happy to go into more detail of that if that's helpful.
Please point us to what page it's on at least.
Um,
Somehow I was looking for that, but didn't see it. I must have ran it.
So page, making sure that it's numbered the same as what I'm seeing it on my list. Let's see here. The scope is identified on page 5 of 15 is how it's numbered on the document.
Okay, thank you.
And it has the system and the scope. So the system integration verification is to verify integration and control room remote monitoring completed and fully operational for HVAC, public address, security, phone, nurse call, access control, hot water temperature, fuel tank, water tank, etc. So
okay. Now I did see that. I just wasn't, my brain didn't say that was necessarily IT, but I
Sure.
do see how that does have to all work together. So
yeah,
thank you. I really appreciate that.
of course.
Board members, any other comments, questions, clarifications on this?
We were trying to keep it at 200, right?
That was it. That was the budget line item for it.
Yeah. Is this a problem?
I mean,
So
it's,
Donna,
everything's a problem over, but that's what. contingency is
yeah,
for.
Donna, can you remind us of how much our contingency is in our budget?
The contingency as we have it right now is 3 million. 3,500,000, over 3.5 million.
Okay, and how much of that has been allocated?
None of that's been allocated, except for what this would be. I mean, like, that is what's remaining. Except for this additional 31,000 would have to be taken out of that, and then you'd be left. It's still just under 3.5 million once this is moved into that line item.
Right, and we always try to work, the contingency itself will be affected, but what we'll try to do on other things is try to get them, they'll be under. So it tends to kind of level its way out. The contingency is for larger things. So
Yeah, it's a plus. I have a contingency log that I keep, and so it shows the pluses and minuses, and they go both directions. As things become solidified by contract.
so a $31,000 delta doesn't give me any heartburn really.
And thank you for mentioning that Linda McCurdy was involved in making sure that we had this wrapped up how we need it to. That makes me feel better also. Yeah. Because this stuff is beyond my my brain. Yeah. Yeah.
That's what we've done.
Yeah.
I have just a real quick question, and it's on page 2.
of 15,
Mhm.
under estimated construction schedule, where it says
Thank
foundation
you, I didn't-
finished 1/7/2024. And
Yes.
from vast experience with foundation construction in this area over the winter months, it's really not a good thing.
Yeah, no,
So
that's a good
hopefully
point.
that's gonna be done long before we hit winter.
Oh, no, April,
Or-
we're gonna start grading in April,
Spring.
so.
Yeah. I
Seven,
can get that updated. I can get that construction schedule updated prior to getting this contract executed. In fact, it would have, the correct schedule would have been incorporated, but I'll make sure that the proposal itself gets updated with the correct schedule as well.
Thank you.
yeah, and we are still, playing with schedule.
Thank you for bringing that up, because I had noticed that as well, and I meant to.
Every
also-
problem we've had at Wildwood and the rec center goes right back to trying to do it over the winter.
Yeah.
Concrete does not like. that.
No, we're not gonna be laying anything, in fact, the groundwork, according to the new schedule, doesn't even start till April 1st, so.
Yeah.
Our concrete pour will be probably later in the summer,
Good,
where it will cure a little bit better, obviously.
super.
Yeah.
And the estimated closeout finish, would that be in August then? This has,
26,
yeah,
yes.
this has Feb for us.
Well, we're shooting for June, July 26 is
Right.
certificate of occupancy, so, but we put August in the schedule.
So I have a question that I'm almost embarrassed to ask.
Sure.
I don't have a sense of what building envelope refers to here, just the right there.
Skin.
That's a good question.
Building envelope means
Some
the
of the stuff I
skin,
had to
right?
look up too.
Yeah, it's the whole exterior skin, so both roof and exterior walls. And it's confirming air and water tightness and making sure pressurization is accurate between the spaces.
It's right down from the sheathing to the
Everything,
wrap to
the
the
whole
siding.
skin, the entire skin.
Any other
question.
questions, comments? No? Okay, then do I have a motion to move forward as presented to approve Capital Engineering as our commissioning agent with a total amount authorized up to $231,150?
I will so move.
Thank you, Ken. Do I have a second? Thank you, Shelley. All in favor, Ken?
Right,
Sherry?
Yes.
Shelley?
Aye.
And I'll vote aye. Thank you, Donna.
Thank you for it.
All right, got that one wraps. Now let's move on to number 8, new critical access hospital skilled nursing facility commissioning agent selection. No, that's not commissioning agent. That's gonna be. I think our agenda is off on this one. It's not-
Yeah, a little bit, that's right.
It's,
Oh,
We're gonna go into the fixes, so, the three.
Oh.
No, this is the, our agenda's off on this one. This is the,
yeah, that's a duplicate.
just the,
Wording
place
right
to
there.
see on both.
Yeah, so, new critical access hospital skilled nursing facility notice to proceed 3R1. Strike out commissioning agent selection because that's a duplicate from the item above. Requesting board consideration approval of authorization with respect to the Seneca Healthcare District Replacement Critical Access Hospital Skilled Nursing Facility and Outpatient Services Building Project to District Chief Executive Officer or designee to enter into change order amendment or other legal instrument approved by District Legal Counsel and District Chief Executive Officer or designee, permitting the Bolt Company contractor to proceed with the design work set forth in the request for notice to proceed 3R1 submitted by contractor and to enter into subcontracts for, but not to proceed with at this time, the construction work set forth therein, and upon the full execution of same, to issue notice to proceed with design work set forth therein, and to enter into but not proceed with the construction work subcontract set forth therein, all in a form approved by District Legal Counsel and the District Chief Executive Officer or designee. That was a mouthful.
thank you, Jerry.
Yeah.
That was from our legal team, I'm sure.
Pretty precise.
All right, so let's discuss this now. One of the questions that I had, and then when I talked with Sherry, she also had, was with regards to some council information that we were provided. We wanted to make sure that Bolt, as we are looking at approving these and moving into these things earlier than originally anticipated. We want to make sure that their financial situation is still as it was when we contracted with them to begin with. And so we did get confirmation from Steve Lind, who's their vice president, general manager, and I guess counsel. And he said, team, good afternoon. I'm confirming that Bolt's financial position has not changed in a measurable way since we submitted the RFQ and our financial statements. So just want the board to be clear that they did confirm that as we're discussing this. Now, my question is, at what point are we expecting these outlays, and at what point are we expecting inlays from our temporary financing?
So Donna, the question, did you get the question?
I
When do we-
did.
Yeah, when do we expect outlay and when do we expect our first infusion, given the fact that we have our LOC completed?
I have to defer to our finance folks. I'm not sure if we need to report back on that, but I am not clear when that first fund comes in now that we have everything cleared to move forward. We have cost to I can tell you what cost to date is and anticipated costs for the next quarters, but I don't have the information clearly on the when the incoming happens.
Okay, do we have an idea, Steve? Do we have an idea about how long it'll take? Is it gonna be 6 months? Is it gonna be 8 months? Do we have a rough estimate for how long before we should start to see our interim financing?
I think probably the biggest piece that affects the timing is when we're going to receive our GMP.
So I can speak to that part. So the GMP, we're anticipating having this is in the report that we'll go over later too. So the contractors, Bolt is planning on doing a bid on the 95% construction document set that is going to be available to them mid-October. So October 16th is the anticipated date to have that set with which they will be bidding. And the plan is that we would then use that round of bidding to get the GMP to the board at the end of November.
Okay,
Then funding. So for the next quarter, Donna, the outgoing amount is estimated at what? Additional for the next quarter?
So next quarter, Q2 as fiscal year ending 2024 is 2.45.
And our investment to date right now is what?
The cost to date right now is 4.18.
It's at our 7.
what's that?
Let's just write it our 7. So, and then see that the GMP is done in November, then we can expect our inflow by when? You were about to finish after the GMP.
Yeah, then Piper Sandler, then they'll start marketing it. So I don't know the exact time that it'll take for them to do the placement, but we will actively be seeking the debt. So I will follow up with them on the amount of time from receipt of the GMP to when they think that the funds will be available.
So our full owner's contribution of 7, looks like it will be exhausted here through this next quarter. It'll be up to about 7. So I guess the question the board wants to know is when are we going to start receiving that back in to repay ourselves?
And I'm surprised we didn't get it. There was no timelines in related to when that we can anticipate that.
Well, it's like Steve said, it's after the GMP, and the GMP will only come after they rebid this, potentially, with better rates.
Mhm.
So that, the contractor will lock in, but they want a chance to rebid a little of this because they believe they can get a better deal in the fall. Is that an accurate statement, Donna?
Yes.
Okay, thought so. So, yeah. We don't have a specific answer on the finance, but they're gonna start marketing it as soon as the GMP's done.
And assuming we approve this today, this then obligates us to this $2.6 million.
Can I clarify one thing though? The 1 point, so of the GMP, I'm sorry, of the notice to proceed that's being requested, there's 1.87 of it. I think that's right. I'm reading that right. Yeah, 1.87 of it is for the site grading, utilities and paving. And that is to be able to contract with the grading contractor, so we don't find ourselves in the spring still not having a grading contractor because of all the skilled and trained challenges that we've had. It's to lock them in, and it will not be expended until next spring.
Okay,
So,
that
yeah,
helps. That
Yeah,
helps a
so
lot.
1.8 of that, so we're looking, at $800,000 outbound investment before,
Okay,
before the quarter, so.
so then I
But
guess
it's
I'm
just to lock it up so we can actually bid this thing.
then I hear that. So then I just want Steve to reassure us that we can afford this right now before we know when our inflows are coming in.
Yeah, based upon what's been just discussed, we have the cash reserves to incur that obligation. Yes.
Without causing any undue financial strain on our normal operations.
That's correct.
Thank you. That makes me feel much better.
Mhm.
Board members, any other questions, comments?
So scary.
Yeah,
Very.
you have to have so many days cash on hand for the USDA loan, so.
We're well within that,
Well,
and
and
that's only when they find it.
we clarified that's at the point in which we actually have our permanent loan established with them.
2026.
That's when they
Right.
care. I mean, I'm sure they care
Got it.
before that, but that's when they start
Okay.
tracking that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Alright.
Any other questions?
It's always comfortable to have a big old huge cash on hand reserve fund, right?
This.
It's
Makes everyone feel
everyone likes to have a big bank.
Especially when you're looking at potential outlay.
Yeah, yeah, but I do think that, we're in a position still where I like to look down and see 15, 16 million in the bank too. But we're in a position, and the timing is such that we can absorb this without a big impact, and then we will start seeing inflow. So this is, we all knew that there was gonna be a lot of outbound for a while.
Yeah,
Do we know how the inflow works quarterly? What's the frequency of funds?
That's a good question for Steve. Steve, what kind of an inflow as far as I guess the pressure of the water coming in do we have, or just a trickle? Once it's sold, right?
Yeah, and we can just draw on it as we have valid expenditures. You bet.
Yeah, it's a pool we could just keep cycling off of.
So a valid expenditure would be paying our cash on hand back.
Well, the valid expenditure in the loan would be anything towards construction, obviously, but yes, Steve's been out for a little bit, but we will be getting together to talk about the strategy to build back our cash on hand. Especially, since, we've got 3 years of construction.
Mhm.
And we've got building back the cash on hand, and of course, the 3.1 that was a little short on the USDA, so we have to bring that back, either through philanthropic activity or volume. It's gotta come back, both, yes. So, yeah. Time to build that cash flow back.
Right. And to Sherry's Thrall's point, I believe it was Sherry,
Yes.
Sherry or Shelley, one of you two. Not quite sure. The way that the USDA finalized the loan approval, they put all of the construction costs, so the Bolt contract into what the USDA is going to support through through interim financing, both um, the GEO bonds and also the what will now be certificate of participation. The certificate of participation will be funded first. And so therefore, any amounts that we've expended to date, we being Seneca, towards those items that are part of what the USDA will cover in their loan, we can immediately request reimbursement for that amounts. And last time I looked, we had expended about almost $2.2 million towards that, mainly paying Bolt for the design work they've done to date. And we have another open invoice. So when we pay out this money for the whatever we've the right way to phrase what we've approved today, we can go right back and request reimbursement for those amounts immediately. It's just like moving the chips around or whatever, because we ultimately have to meet our owner's equity obligation, but it reestablishes our cash on hand and allows us to rebuild up our reserves over time. So, we can see that right away. And that's one of the reasons that our cash has been depleted. And I'll talk about that in my report, are the expenditures that we've made to date. So.
Okay, thank you, Steve.
Yes, thank you. That helps a lot. Okay. Any other questions or comments? So I guess, Donna, we need a motion to approve the notice to proceed.
That's correct.
All right.
And under those terms identified in that lengthy agenda
Yes,
item.
that I read already. I'm not gonna bore everyone with reading it again.
Three paragraph motion.
All right, with consideration to the verbiage that I read previously, do I have a motion to approve the notice to proceed 3R1?
I'm
Thank you. Do I have a second?
A second.
Thank you. All in favor, Shelley?
Aye.
Sherry?
Aye.
Ken?
Aye.
And I'll vote aye. Thank you very much. Appreciate all the clarification around and all the work that's gone into this too. All right, so next up, we have our medical staff report. We have reappointments for Dr. Jean, Dr. Brink, and Dr. Taylor. Do I have a motion to approve the reappointments as listed on the agenda?
I'll make the motion to approve.
Thank you, Ken. Do I have a second? Thank you, Shelley. All in favor, Shelley? Aye. Ken?
Aye.
Sherry?
Aye.
And I'll vote aye. Okay, next up, policies and procedures. And more policies and procedures. Our poor staff. going through
That
all
book's
these.
gotta be this too.
I was very, very, very appreciative though that they had track changes. So it made it a lot easier for me to go through. I don't have any questions. Most of them changes made perfect sense to me. Well, all of them I saw actually. Does anybody have any questions or comments about the policies and procedures?
I had one.
Sure, which policy?
So, it was to rescind the staff meals.
Okay,
Was that, is that incorporated in another policy, or are we just doing away with that? There was a policy around supporting staff meals, which I thought was interesting.
do you know the answer to that, Judy, by chance? We can get with staff and get that answer for you, Shelley.
Yeah. I just thought that was interesting. So,
Any other questions, comments? Okay. Then I would like to accept a motion to approve as outlined in the agenda, which includes the revisions, the new policies, and the rescinded policies.
Make the motion.
Thank you, Ken. Anyone second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, Sherry?
Aye.
Ken?
Hey,
Shelley?
Hi.
And I'll vote aye. Thank you.
as I look through these, when I still see rescind, I'm curious
The purpose for why it's being
What's the
rescinded.
change?
yeah, what's the change?
Like Shelley said, is it something that's just totally going away?
Or
Or
they
has it been
Some of
incorporated?
merged.
sometimes they've
Yeah.
merged.
Yeah.
the
Right.
Policy and
Yeah.
it's no longer necessary to have two.
Yeah. So it's no longer dietary, it's now food and nutrition services. That was very clear.
So
And I also get a little curious as to new policies that are put in place. What was the impetus for the new policy? Was this a review finding? Was
It
this?
can be, it can be a multitude of things.
Yes.
It can be regulatory.
On the ice machine, it was actually a result of the regulatory survey finding that we got. And so we had to actually move it to a different department who's now responsible for the cleaning and maintenance of that ice. machine.
So some of them are through review. Some of them are policies that we didn't have that by regulation we should have in the review. We not only take a look at what was existing and what needs to be updated, but what are we missing? And then we try to fill them in. So some of the new ones are generally based on the fact that we never had one and we should have had one.
And I know we talked about it before. Is there a review schedule for?
There is. We're actually looking, this is very cumbersome when you're trying to have a timely review. And then there's a hierarchy in the review. It has to vet staff and things, and it's very cumbersome when you have to do track changes. It has to go to the right person for signature through the pathway before it gets to the board. So there's a lot of software
I was gonna
out
ask
there
about that, yeah.
that we've now looked at to help tracking the system where it pops up to the owner, said, guess what? It's time. And then all changes they make goes to the next reviewer with track changes. Then ultimately, everything's approved. As it gets approved, it gets prepared for med staff, goes back to audit or it's the editing, and it comes to you. So
And with
right
the
now, it's
annual
time
review
consuming.
cycle, it takes almost a year to get a policy through and it's time for it to be reviewed again.
Here?
Wow.
Because of the, trying to find the meeting time.
Yeah.
To do the review, so
And
these
this is all
software
online.
products, let them be done on a person's schedule and forward them on.
I think we use Midas. I think we use Midas. Right,
Actually,
right.
we looked at MCN.
We're looking at MCN,
MCN.
which is what we use
So,
in the.
Well, it's another software application. It is, let's work smarter, not harder.
Yeah.
And this is so time consuming to review these and to make sure that everyone got the track changes properly. So we are taking a look at automation.
And it's huge.
So we have a PNC committee now.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
Let alone the training aspect of this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's right now it's just really clunky.
How much are we thinking these solutions? look
Did
like
we
they'll
receive
be?
quotes? We just viewed the software, right?
Charlie, you're on, did you get a quote? Or any of the?
Yeah, I did receive a quote. They're varying from 5,000 to 15,000 per year.
Per year,
15?
5 to
5 to
15.
15.
Yeah, but I'm sure it wasn't 50.
So we're paying a full-time clerical person.
I'm thinking this is gonna be saving
This is
people a lot
going
of
to
time.
save us
Well,
money over the human resources.
Charlene spends hours on policy, so
And Judy, you said it takes a year to
It
get,
takes a good several months from beginning to end, and we have a policy review schedule assigned by department, so everyone knows when their policies are up for review. They don't always make it to that month, so they might be a month behind, and then, but depending on especially the clinical policies that have to go to, if they have to go to pharmacy and therapeutics, and then they have to go to medical staff, and then they might get bounced back, and then they eventually end up at the board. And then they have to be
Yeah.
uploaded back into the system and make sure that all the changes were appropriately made. This electronic system would save tons and tons.
I
and tons
imagine,
of hours.
yes.
And even, the board could
It does.
review it online as well, and they would see all of the tracked changes as well.
How difficult would it be to initially get these up on the system?
If they say it's actually, they'll upload your current, like a PDF,
That's
they
what I was
can just
wondering.
upload it. And then-
Didn't get it up where it was not.
It's not that big of a deal, and then you check it out, and then it is more like a Word document so that you can edit and make changes, then you
Yeah.
check it back in and it goes to the next person in
Right.
line for review.
Right.
Okay, great. That was, I was wondering how much of an effort it would be to front
It's
load
not hard.
everything in there.
Yeah, we had one, we had it at Venice as well, and it just popped up in my email saying, surprise,
Yeah.
your turn.
It'd probably be the toughest on Tessa, actually, because she has the most number of policies
Yeah.
for the skilled nursing.
Yeah.
facility.
Okay,
Jerry,
yes.
Andrea is on and she answered your question.
She was just on mute.
I walked over. So the staff meals policy is not a requirement, so we just rescinded it. It was something that they had done a long time ago. And as I was going through the policies, it wasn't necessary. The other one was the ice machine policy. Okay, so that came from our survey last year. The state actually did us a favor and put it under dietary. Sorry, I walked all the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So most of the time, ice machines are in the dietary departments. So normally they would fall under dietary. They didn't want to put it under infection control because that would have been a worse tag for us. So they put it under dietary. So I am monitoring the logs and helping Linda clean and everything. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Did you have any questions on any other ones?
What's for lunch?
Thank you.
What's for
I'm
lunch?
just kidding. We got rid of the milk. policy.
No more food points.
Free chili for sure.
Phone, but I couldn't get a hold of anybody to let them know that I was on the phone. There's, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Perfect. Okay, I think we should move on to number 11 then. New critical access hospital board updates. Donna, you're back up. If you're still there, Donna.
I am here, sorry. All righty. So, you'll notice that the previous first line items have been eliminated. So we had Sequanipa previously, and so all that is closed. So now top of the list is the helicopter landing site. We did receive the needed letter from the Office of the Sheriff Emergency Services that would show the regulatory agencies that what we're proposing is a reasonable and prudent location, allowing for safe operation. We are, Sean's working to discuss with Division of Aeronautics who that gets provided to there. And we have also provided it to the architect so that they have it available in the case that HCI should need that as well. So just dotting our I's and crossing our T's on that one to make sure that we have all our more or less strenuous, but still approvals as we need them. And then Bolt and HGA are proceeding to design that again so that it can be it's being designed such that it can be upgraded in the future if need be, but keeping it at the helicopter landing site designation with the items noted here on the report. Harvest plan, our birds are getting bigger and we're expecting them to fly shortly. We are finalizing contract with the licensed timber operator. There are some challenges that we're having there, but working diligently to get that finished so that they will be ready when those birds have flown and we can maximize our maximize our time here before winter comes.
Hey, Donna, if I may just interrupt there, I didn't have a chance to update you. I did speak to the licensed timber operator, not the owner, but a person that was working for them. So fewer and fewer issues are coming forward. I did ask that the attorneys confer and just in 5 minutes, they'll figure this thing out. So Dawn, I just want to give you an update that they did respond to my outbound call.
Great, that
Yeah.
sounds good. Yeah, there's, yeah, just, yeah, those last few items for that, exactly. And then, since I wrote this report, we have gotten feedback from the biologist that they don't necessarily have to do another, review of the site. I think it's, good insurance to have them do it. So I'll work with Sean, on that and just make sure that we're on the same page there. And, if we, decide to have him come out, he has to be out, he has to do the, survey, right before the start of the timber harvest. We also will have the earthwork special inspection and materials testing consultant on site, as well as, of course, the registered forester.
So Donna, for the biologist, is that to confirm the heron chicks are gone when the chick is gone?
Yeah, just to confirm that we're, doing the right thing from both a floristic perspective as well as a bird perspective.
I'm a little concerned that a fox or a bear or
Yeah.
something might,
Yeah.
in the interim, decide to take up residence.
No.
Yeah, no, it seems to me that the
So-
They're not
scope
gonna
is,
go looking for
it
you.
seems to me the
No.
scope of
Wildlife,
biologist should be limited to confirming that the bird has left the area, the bird has left the nest, right?
And that- Right, I mean, we're not in our growth season anymore, so any kind of floristic stuff probably won't be in existence. I would like
Correct.
just honestly, I would like the biologist confirmation that they've fledged and
Yes.
they're out.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
That's,
Does that sound good, Donna?
Yes.
Thank
Understood.
you. All right, go ahead and continue.
Okay. No update on Wildwood easement, except for just noting, I did add a little note there that says, we're working on getting fire approval for whatever entity that is. And at that point, just when I started thinking that we could bring this up this month, we're not quite there. As soon as we get fire sign off is when I will be bringing this back to the board for further discussion as to how we want to handle that easement that we currently have in place.
Anything we need to add there?
yeah, honest.
Thank you. All right, thank you, Donna. Go ahead.
Alrighty, next item is the USDA financing. As you are aware of from the Tuesday board meeting, we got the loan approval for less than what was requested, but have gotten that all that documentation, as you all know, to to USDA, and all funding minus that gap has been secure, I don't want to say secure.
And just so this board is aware, I did include a cover letter that outlined the items that we discussed that needed to be revisited. So,
And it was received and it was confirmed.
yes,
So
yes,
We made your deadline.
yes.
You know,
we
I
got-
understand.
Not at all.
I understand you guys scrambled, so thank you.
You did. It was a scramble. No.
We got it.
Alrighty, other funding, we did have a meeting on the 25th, with a potential, a consultant that can potentially help with grant opportunities, so that's being explored. They had done an initial scan of some potential grants that would be, applicable to this project. And so, there, as I understand at this point, they are working to get a proposal to us on how they would proceed if Seneca decided to hire them to pursue those grant opportunities on their behalf, on Seneca's behalf. Then I provided the renderings that have been developed by the architect. And those are anticipated to go into the donor packets that are being developed in order to pursue further philanthropic giving. And lastly, just wanted to update that there's no update on the Senate Bill 395 that had been applied for back this summer at some point. So that's all on funding schedule. We, in your board packet was the updated schedule pursuant to pushing the grading from this fall to next spring. So as is reflected here, we are looking at a revised certificate of occupancy June of 2026, followed by a 2-month staff and stock, looking at first patient August of 2026 is the revised date. Also included in the board packet is the associated cash flow that goes along with that schedule for your records and information.
Thank you, Dawn.
Budget, wanted to get the board updated on right now. Bolt has an overrun, and this is what we had conceptually discussed previously as why we were recommending that we push the GMP out. But just to put some dollars to it, right now they're at about 62 million. There's nothing other than the message saying that we don't have 62 million, we have 55.5. And so we're working to get back to that, both through through continuing working on the design to make sure we're keeping it in check, as well as that rebid that we've discussed that will happen starting mid-October. Overall project budget remains at 72 million. And just again, noting, just to call this out, that the support services building is separate from that 55.5 is what I have in this, continue to have in this report.
And that will be going out to RFP probably within the next month or so. According to Bolt, Dawn, if you don't mind me jumping in.
Yeah.
According to Bolt, we would be able to erect our maintenance building sometime around August of next year, which would be very beneficial for current operations, but also for storage of equipment or whatever's coming in through the course of the construction period. So we're gonna expedite that a little bit more.
Good. I think that's a great idea.
Yes.
Good, Donna.
Okay. So then next line item is the design. We are for the site, we're working to figure out the who from fire is going to be reviewing that. We did get some initial comments back from them, but looking to figure out if those comments are the ones that we need to proceed with, or if we're starting with a new set of reviewer, or how that's all going to pan out from how the fire department situation is going to pan out as it relates to the new building.
You know, I don't know that our board understands all of that. So if I could just take a minute, Dawn, is that okay?
Of course.
So Chester Fire is the fire agency that covers this area. They put water on fires in Chester proper. Part of the HCI documentation was that we needed a review by the fire service to look at things like turning radiuses around the road, hydrant locations. There was a series of things. And we got into they did hire a contractor. They didn't have the internal capability. They hired a contractor to do this. This contractor came back with some initial questions that were being answered. But I did receive an email from the CPUD general manager that halted all activity in that regard, anticipating a slow operational shutdown. I got that on the 20th. I don't know. We all know, we're all familiar with what's going on, but I don't know that you can just shuck your duty in preparation for what might be a shutdown. I don't want to get into a big old firefight with these folks. Excuse my expression. That's the fun. But the bottom line is that they are still an active fire service, and while they're an active fire service, you know, we're they're shutting down work in anticipation for something that has not been approved by their board. And so we are stuck with, where they've stopped, all work from this consultant. So we decided that rather than, and we talked to HCI, it was in an email, we talked to HCI that maybe we should just shift our attention and maybe get Penfire to start accommodating this work, even if we have to pay for the consultant to get this work into HCI. It does have a date of December where it has to be in for the shell and core. This document has to be in. So right now I'm stuck with a fire service that has stopped the work, but still in operations. So we're trying to figure out what plan B is going to be.
So
I'm not sure if we should just go in plan B's direction or force the issue.
Yeah, because I don't think Plan A is
Okay,
reliable.
that's okay. I've got my direction from the board. Plan B. Donna, we'll start moving on plan B. Okay. Are you there?
Donna, are you still with us?
I had muted, sorry about that.
Okay.
Okay, so then, so that's all site related for the building itself. The interiors, is proceeding with construction documents and, no update on the timing for that. I mean, no change from the timing on that, in that, we're still looking for, comments from HCI for the core and shell that was submitted back in July, and interiors go into HCI. We're looking at beginning of November at this point, so a little bit improved from what's on the report there. So then medical planning, we've been working diligently with the equipment planner to get the vendors identified for the different architecturally significant equipment, and have made some good progress where we've identified all the vendors for those pieces, and we're working on getting all the needed design information to the design team for those specific pieces of equipment so that they can be sure to incorporate those into their final design that again is completing beginning of November.
And will those vendors come to us at some point for our approval?
Does the board want to be able to approve the vendors of choice? And with an explanation, is that something you're interested in, or do you want to leave that more into the operational? And I mean, we can compile a list of vendors that we've made decisions on if you'd like. That's no problem. We don't have any problem. We're not hiding anything. It's just if it's no interest, or if it is interest, we can discuss it.
What do you all think?
I don't have any sense of what the costs are associated with this.
Well, the costs are well within budget. They're budgeted. It's just a matter of selection between, say, GE or Siemens or Canon or Stryker, or, it's the vendors that supply specific equipment for all of the different departments within the hospital that we have been reviewing and have made selections based upon several criteria, price being one, obviously, but maintenance capability, the functionality within the workflow, those types of things. So this has been done with every single department manager that is responsible for that area. And a lot of times, an executive will sit in on all that. I have an imaging background, so I sit in on all the imaging pieces. So if you'd like to see the list of selection, I have no problem with that. It's just, it'd be curiosity more than anything else.
So, yeah, I think for me, it's curiosity too, but I'd be interested in seeing the one that, you've landed on,
Mhm.
and then just,
A quick
somebody just to
explanation.
buy.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Donna, we can put that together. Yeah. Just.
Yeah, absolutely. What
Yeah.
I'm picturing an updated equipment list
Right. Me too.
for the next board meeting, right?
Yes, with the selected vendors, and then we can dialogue as to why they won.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we have enough representation. Yeah. Good.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay.
Alrighty. Alrighty, moving on. That we've discussed the GMP, how we're looking at the 95% construction drawings for middle of October, that Bolt will be bidding, and then we'll be getting back to the board in the November meeting with that. And then we discussed the site construction contract and bolt contract modifications in that last line item.
So
So-
Donna, can I ask a quick question about that?
Yes.
95% construction drawing. Does that mean that we just aren't finalizing it yet? Like why does it say 95?
So they're trying to make sure that they're ready for the November Board of Directors meeting. So they're having, it's kind of like they refer to it as they're pulling the drawings off the drawing board at that point, so that it's a almost complete enough set to bid. And then they'll handle any clarifications from the 95 to 100%, as well as the plan review from HCI subsequent to that, but within their GMP. So they would be required to stick within their GMP at that 95%. There's a little bit of nuance there, just for full disclosure. If it's something that is unpredictable from an HCI perspective, that's something that could be a requested change order from the GMP. But of course that will be managed, and that's partially what the project contingency is for. That's partially why you have a project contingency, is to make sure you have the funds to deal with those kinds of things.
Great, thank you.
So with that, I don't have any further updates.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Donna.
you.
We really appreciate. Board members, any other questions for Donna?
Nope.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to number 12, CEO report.
Yeah, my apologies to the board. This is the second time I have missed a written report. I've been a little bit focused on a couple of issues, and the issues that I would report on primarily you are all aware of. So I'm just going to do a verbal report and just going to move through some things and then see if you want to have any questions for me. Obviously, there's been a couple of things that have been top of mind. USDA, the continued design of the building, USDA has been one, and then we've had a recent one with our EMS that has been taking a lot of time. So we'll just go with that. So we are going to be able to, we just had Brian just exposed us to what they call the health check for Cerner, which was the ability to really start pulling data out of a system now that's been drawing information in for almost 4 months. So in my reports, and I'm sure some other reports, we're going to be able to start to utilize some of these graphs to point out trends, which I think that you are really interested in. Things that I'm interested in is trending clinic volume, outpatient volume, ER volume, those kinds of things are so much easier to pull out of the Cerner system and put into a graph and be able to bring those forward. So I'm asking that, of all the executives get reports, if they can graph it for a visual to the board, it's better than a verbal. So you'll start seeing those things appear in the board meetings and the reports.
And will we start
Okay.
getting those next month?
I'm sorry.
Will we start getting them next month?
Yeah, if I can remember my Cerner password. The answer is yes.
Might have to reset it for them.
Yeah, that's right. They're actually really nice. You can drop them into Excel and graph them any way you want. So it's just a great visual reference, and I'm excited because I can do it every day if I want. I can also build reports that end up in my inbox every week, robot report type thing. So
Is that anything that we would possibly have access to do?
if you have Cerner access, I mean, we can do that. That's easy. That's easy. It's actually really simple.
Because I think that might, for me, I think that might be helpful to be able
Pop
to
it in if you
actually.
want, just sign in, and we could probably do that, yeah. And there's so the lights on, there's the ability to do custom reporting, but the lights on are just, how many reports that are just,
Well, there were
Available.
650 metrics that were captured
Okay.
inside of that. There's some standardized operational reports and executive reports. We can set our own baselines, so we meeting our baseline, not contend. There are comparisons to other critical access hospitals, similar type.
Very nice.
and under your profile, you can select your favorite ones and
Yeah.
they just show up. So I geek out on data.
I do too.
I geek on data, so I can't wait to start doing this. It's gonna be a lot of fun. It is a rabbit hole. I agree. You get into this thing, how deep do you want to go? It gets pretty crazy. So you'll start seeing those more things that are visually referenceable in the reports coming forward. So we're
It's
excited.
just a matter of having enough data in there,
Yeah,
And
to make it real, the end number's gotta be valid, so
Right data.
the right data to, it wouldn't be a board meeting if we didn't talk about our bird. So we have a bird, if you hadn't heard. I went out there again today. It's a big bird. This big bird, mom just needs to pack the car and head south. And I think we're very close. That bird looks like it's gonna fledge. It is full size, so. We're keeping an eye on it and we are just, as soon as that bird's gone and confirmed gone. I talked to the licensed timber operator. I said, fire up the chainsaw, let's go. And that's the first tree, by the way, it's going.
Good.
Yeah. So the bird has been the focus of everything. We actually said it yesterday on the radio. We were at KJDX doing an update for the community and the DJ just couldn't believe it. He's like, hey, what do you mean you have a bird? So
Maybe we'll be the big bird district.
if we could,
Big
it
bird
was
health
just great.
district.
Wow.
So did have the biologist said when these birds normally
Actually,
fly south?
actually, they did estimate when they saw the chicks the first time around the 1st of October, and I was like, oh, it's gonna be earlier than that. Well, guess where we are?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess I have to trust that the biologists know a lot more than Sean about birds, so.
Well, and everything happened so much later this year.
Yes.
That normally by now it would have been
Yeah.
gone.
I mean, there's still fawns with spots. I'm still
Yeah,
seeing, so
nice.
it's just a delay here altogether. So we're poised though, when the big bird flies away with mom, things are happening. Donna did mention the donor packet. We are in the final draft of the donor packet. I asked Steve today, and he's been a little bit remote to review more of the financials, just update them for the donor packet. Once we get that, then we're gonna go ahead and place it into a professional published document, and that will be hitting the streets. So that'll be, we'll have it under, I'll have 5 of them under my arm everywhere I go. They're gonna be beautiful. Chelsea does an outstanding job of formatting them and things like that. So those will be done. So good. That'll be
yes.
final. That's also been, that also broaches the subject around our contract with the Almar Foundation. So I did put a contract in front of the Almar Foundation. They sent out a doodle poll recently. I don't know if you saw that, to get together and discuss some of the language in the contract. So we're gonna do that. But I think that ultimately, well, it's this board's decision, but I think ultimately we have to spin up another discussion around setting up our foundation. Our own 501c3. I know it's a lot of work. But given the fact that with the situation with the USDA and that little bit of shortfall and that loan and some other things, a very, very focused attention on philanthropy is going to be necessary. Now, I, as a CEO, am 100% should be leading the charge on that. Absolutely, 100%. And I think going into the next 3 years, I'll be focusing a lot of my attention as that sort of gets a rhythm, as the new hospital gets a rhythm and things to that effect. We really need to focus in. So I'm going to bring it again to the board eventually here, probably in the next 2 months, about standing up our own 501c3 and what that would take and the things. I just need to reconsider it if we cannot get a really good contract with the Almar Foundation.
So would we not consider continuing our education efforts around direct giving?
Absolutely. It's going to be both. It's a twofer.
Okay, so I'm just want to hear the value in doing
Yeah.
that.
That's the discussion.
Yes.
The discussion, for some reason, we have just, the education's not with the donor. It's with the donor's accountant that we have to really focus on, because they're so used to giving the 501c3, that's easy. And we have good legal language around our status as a tax-free entity or tax deducted entity. We need to make it so simple for the accounting side of their philanthropic efforts to get it. So it's going to be a subject in the next 2 months that I just want to have dialogue with you about. And it's going to hinge on the Almar Foundations, on what we come out with the Almar Foundation, because that's a 501c3, it works fine. And if we're paying a small fee for these things, then you're right. Why spin up our own foundation if we already have one? We're vertical. Okay. But I've been thinking about it again a lot.
Do we anticipate that that's gonna be an issue getting a good contract with
I don't think so. I think that we needed a better contract that we had. So I think we'll find a way to meet in the middle somewhere.
Yeah.
Well,
I do. It's not competitive. It's not contentious at all, at all.
No,
It's
they're a
just,
great partner.
they are a great partner. And we just need to make sure that we are both happy or both unhappy. Contract works either way.
Usually both ways, yeah.
Okay. Last one is I want to update you legislatively. Senate Bill 525 passed and was signed.
He did sign it.
Yeah, it's signed. So
Was it
Um,
updated with the changes?
it was updated. So yes, well, can't tell you for sure that he signed, but all indications from our advocacy groups is it's gonna get signed. We did get a little reprieve as a critical access rural hospital. We're gonna be starting at 18 minimum with a 5-year lean into 25. So in 5 years, we'll be at $25 minimum wage. We will start, as soon as there's a signature from the governor, Steve, and the executive team and maybe members of part members of the board need to do an analysis of what this looks like year over year financially as an impact to the organization, especially as we're looking at, the debt service that we're going to be facing and some other pressures. This does not exactly ease the pressure. We get a reprieve for 5 years, more or less, but it's ultimately going to culminate in a $25 minimum wage.
We're starting at 18.
We are.
And where are we now?
15.
It's just 1580, I think. I'm not sure. I can't. What's our minimum wage right now? 1550. So immediately, right there, we got a $2.5 impact. So, and then
That's
there's
just
the
on all the
compression.
lower levels.
Then there's all the compression that
Yeah,
goes,
you have to move everybody
Yeah.
else.
right? And the exempt part, I don't think was stricken. So, we're gonna have to analyze the final signed bill or signed law and just look at the impact to the organization and realize that it's not going away. In fact, I heard, and just rumor mill is that the unions are quite emboldened by this act, and they're going to submit one in 2 years for 30.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they were
We're gonna
emboldened.
drive everyone out of business.
They were emboldened by this whole thing. So that would be terrible. That would be an absolute disaster to healthcare. But can give them an inch. Come on.
So exempt was excluded or included?
I don't know the final outcome. The bill did go in as written. So the only changes were a kind of a ramp up to distressed or critical access or rural hospitals. But the big hospitals got hit with 25 immediately. Yeah, so.
Do you know what their minimums are now? Are they close to that?
Well, that's where you are. Minimum wage in San Francisco is probably 22, but in Sacramento, minimum wage is probably 18. So
Yeah,
it's a
so
big
it's
delta.
a big-
There's,
It's a big change for them too.
so this is, we're gonna find out the impact, and ultimately, I think what'll happen is if we start seeing hospitals shut down, then I think there will be a referendum that goes forward to get rid of it. The community's gonna, if it affects care, and it starts putting pressure on the access to care because places start shutting down, I think that the folks of California are going to realize, well, that's a great idea, but it's not practical.
Yeah, but that's gonna be hard for facilities to then reduce
Mhm.
after they had. the
Already
increase.
staff, yeah, there's gonna,
Well,
so
increase rate.
I think we're in for
Yeah.
rubbing the crystal ball. I think that healthcare is in for quite a while in the next few years.
It's implemented in January, right?
January.
Yeah.
Doing that. So, the seismic, my understanding is I couldn't look it up on Bill Track today. It didn't really advance anywhere. It was still being held. I don't think it's going to get to the desk. I think the seismic, which basically says that the kicking the can down the road, there was no funding. The funding was taken out of it in appropriations. There was no way to pay for any of this. I do believe that the seismic is going to get slammed and tabled. Which means that there will be no extension to 1932, Senate Bill 1953, which means that 2030 is the date. Great. We put ourselves in a good position. I think there's a lot of panic out there in the world right now, though, if this doesn't get passed. So I think it's going to fail. I don't think it's going to get to the desk. So those are the two that we've been tracking the most. One not so good, and one doesn't matter to us
Doesn't matter
anymore.
to us.
It's irrelevant to us. Okay. Any questions?
Thank you, Sean.
Yeah,
You Covered a
sure.
lot. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, let's go on to our CFO report. Steve, you still with us?
Certainly am.
Go ahead, thank you.
Thank you. Brian, would you pull up my Excel file, the August 2020, or whoever's running. Yay, here we go. Okay. Okay, so this will be the last month that well, I might keep this around because I actually like it. But this will be the last month you'll see my financial report in this format as the primary source of information. For the October meeting, I am very, very confident that at a minimum, I'll have the formal reports for July and August because we've done quite a bit of the work here just to pull this information together. The only thing I would note about August is that we probably closed the accounts payable number a little quickly and were unable to put together any subsequent accruals that would go in. So the accounts payable is probably a little low for August, but since we're not reflecting a bottom line profit and loss, and we're not reflecting expenses, and I don't think it really distorts the picture or misrepresents anything. The big thing, of course, is right at the top is the decrease in cash. Those cash and cash equivalents, I guess I should say. And those numbers there are our reconciled balances. So we went from 9.6 million to just under 7.8 million, or a decrease of $1.846 million. I do discuss that further down about the components, but moving down, our gross patient revenue decreased a little bit from July, very much in line with August of 22. I mean, incredibly close. So AR collections probably was the most significant event within the month of August, where we finally had patient account collections, whether pretty much the majority of our revenue that we're seeing right now is third-party collections, but it's still on a patient account regardless. It's patient revenue we're collecting from whatever source. That it finally came into line with our Cerner implementation monthly collections, where you can see off to the right was 1,160,000, a little bit above, and we were at 1,245,000. And this amount was without significant nursing home collections, some collections, but not significant. So that this was the good part of the story for August. Moving on down, third-party AR. This is all hospital and clinic. This is non-nursing home. You see that we've just about wound down the CPSI evident revenue, pre-Cerner revenue. The biggest chunk of that remains there, or a big chunk of it is, in addition to all the other challenges that finance and our team has faced, our physical therapist, Steve Brown, we received a notice from Medicare that he was not credentialed with them anymore. So we've been going through I learned a new word between Cerner and the USDA process, arduous. I read the definition. I said, "Holy smokes!"
That's a good word, Steve.
That covered it. That covered it from all perspectives. But it has been indeed an arduous process because we had to start from the beginning. Medical staff coordinator Joanne Malik has been doing this. We did get approval on his what's called Part B, which is the outpatient. But now we're having issues with the claims to get his part. We need to get his Part A approved or whatever. It's simply amazing. But that's a big chunk of what's left with CPSI evident. And again, this was as of August. We met with them. We still have a weekly call with our billing company for the CPSI evident, the HRG group. And this number has come down even further. So we're completely confident by the end of November, when our relationship, our extension contract ends with them, that we'll have this settled, resolved. You can see the progression of the Cerner AR, and as of August, it's just over $3 million. I did a calculation there, very similar to the one that's in the report from R1. So on our hospital and clinic AR, we're at 56 days right now. That's about as high as we'd like it to get. We want it to stabilize and then start coming down from there.
Hey, Steve.
Yes, hello.
Can I just brag about you to the board?
If you wish.
Okay. So 55 days, if you remember our HRGs, 55 days was
That was our target.
good,
Yeah.
right? We're only 4 months into a new EHR, 4 months into an EHR. I can tell you from past experience that AR dies in an EHR implementation. We're talking, it goes up sometimes 6-8 months, the AR. So I just want to take a moment, just pause to give huge kudos to the finance team, because 4 months after a complete conversion and transition to an EHR, and we're at 55 days is unheard of. So Steve, thank you. We talked about this before we went to the EHR, that this was my scare point. And you guys did a remarkable job. 55 days, 4 months after the EHR is outstanding. So kudos, Steve, to you and your team.
Absolutely. Thank you, Steve, and to your team also for all of what Sean just said, because you guys have put in a lot of time and a lot of work into making this happen. So thank you.
Right. And part of that team also is R1. And one of the things that was just, it's not even measurable, how much of a benefit it was to us, was bringing them in during the implementation process, because they brought such a knowledge base with Cerner, and that just helped. And that relationship has continued so far. But my gosh, it's the proverbial finger in the dam thing. It just we keep getting issues that present themselves. But yeah, thank you, and my team thanks you. So here's the challenge here, and I'm kind of getting into the R1 report a little bit, or into the revenue cycle report. So kind of in line with what we experienced with Pete, the physical therapy credentialing, is that at the same time we were dealing with the transition at the beginning of 2023 to managed care for Medi-Cal long-term care beneficiaries. And oh my, this really has been a rough one. And as you can see from the CPSI evidence, so from May 31, that was the last month that there was long-term care revenue through Evident, and in turn HRG. And then June 1, we went forward with AmeriCare, which is our long-term care solution with Cerner. And as you can see, there was no movement on the Evident AR for May, June, and July. And then finally, we received some movement in August. And then we've also received some payments this month. It was, it was, yeah, it was a little more arduous. But yeah. So anyway, we think we've got that now. Within Cerner, when we look at, and it should be Cerner AmeriCare. When we look at them, we can see that, the June was the first month that we had the long-term care billing. And what you're seeing here really is the Medi-Cal long-term care. We've had 1 or 2 private pay residents, and those are paid in advance and settled right up front. So there's never any AR on that one. But with the Cerner through AmeriCare, that's just the Medi-Cal revenue for each month. Now, we did, okay, so that's the days is the 84.75. The difference between that and the total number of days of 92 there is the self-pay. So in essence, we haven't collected any of the third part long-term care. We billed out June for AmeriCare. All of the claims were denied because we were having an issue with our building clearinghouse accommodation code, more information that you want to know. And we corrected the accommodation code, and then July and August have been billed with the correct information. We expect them to go through for payment, probably not, by tomorrow, basically. So they won't be reflected in September, but soon thereafter, we're going to have to rebill June with the correct code. But our AmeriCare vendor rep wants us to be closing out September next week. And then he feels that we're good to go, that we've fully implemented, which is, again, is a great accomplishment for those involved.
So it sounds like we'll see that in October's financial.
Yeah, it's going to be in the October number should be great, because we're going to see the HRG stuff come in. I mean, we could be seeing upwards of $1 million come in the month of October if everything falls into place. We still have a couple oddball ones, if you will, where during the transition, the Medi-Cal assigned some of our residents to strange payers, one in Southern California and one in an insurance plan that doesn't even offer long-term care benefits. So it's a division or a product of California Health and Wellness, HealthNet. So we're still struggling with those. Otherwise, we've had all the TARs approved. So great work by Tiffany and Tessa, Tiffany Pothenroth and Tessa, our DON in long-term care. And so we're off and running there, we believe. And I think what we've gone through here is going to benefit Eastern Plumas mayors and MODOC immensely, because we went through the pain and the beta testing of things. And so I think that they will benefit that, but so be it. I talked about accounts payable, and accounts payable has initially rose up through July and then came down substantially in August. Some of it is related to payments. And I just believe that when we closed accounts payable, we didn't have everything in, and normally we would go do a thorough review for manual accruals to add those additional expenses in. And since we were doing full financial statements, we did not do that for August. So that leads down into kind of the reconciliation of the change in cash, if you will, and the decrease in accounts payable, just over $1 million, and how that would reflect in our as our cash flow would work, if you will. We would probably be reporting a profit or near a profit for the month because of our expenses being a little low. So we'd be reporting less expense, so we'd have less loss for the month when we look at how the change in cash, because normally when I report out the change in cash, I'll say one of the contributing factors is the loss for the month. And so in this case, the loss would either be not there or less. The other two items are, we talked about this a little bit earlier. We expended just over $700,000. These are actual payments. These aren't accruals. Actual cash expenditures to Bolt for their design work of, as you can see, just over $710,000. If there's not any questions about that, I'm just going to talk for a minute. I don't have a document, but I was able, at the request at the Tuesday's meeting, I believe it was Tuesday's meeting, about some clinic statistical information, because normally when we present the full financials, we provide clinic information. So I was able to obtain clinic statistics for July and August. I was able to kind of work with them to make sure there's nothing nothing that that glaring that I would be concerned with isn't reasonably accurate. So I got through that, and we have seen an increase in our clinic visits from back in June. Back in June, we had 589 total clinic visits. And again, I don't have this document for you. I'll clean it up a little bit.
Email?
What's that?
I have Paige's email, if that's what you're talking about.
No, I didn't pull it. I just wanted to talk in general because there's really, thank you for asking though. Back in June, we had 589 visits. Our report says we jumped up to 690 in July and 720 in August. So that's a great trend. The big place that the increase has come from is in our primary care offices. So if we go back to June, we had three providers that saw 140, 90, and 124. So like 350 patients. Those were Dr. Schilling, who is a locums. He's no longer with us, working with us. And then Dr. Walls and Ware. So Schilling ramped up into, he went from 140 to 176 visits in the month going from June to July. I think the only discussion there is it shows this capacity we have for primary care. And when we talk about our future, our debt service, covering owner's equity, this is really the key to our financial ability to meet our future needs and create sustainability thereon. So I think when we talked with the USDA, one of the things that we really said to them is we said, yeah, you can beat us up on our current numbers or whatever you want to do. But we know that the market says, and this is what Whitfleet showed, and this is what our historical numbers show, that the demand in our community is there. So, I mean, that's probably the positive you can take out of those numbers there. We still had the same number of providers, and it's just that they saw a little more patients. Now, we also, at the same time in that month, our walk-in clinic went from 177 to 233. So between the walk-in and the scheduled primary care offices, we saw more than 100 patients. The specialty stuff stayed about the same. Now, as we move into August, Dr. Schilling left, Dr. Russo came back. There was a little bit of a drop in the total visits between the combination of Russo and Schilling, and I believe that's just solely due to the number of days that there was a little gap between Schilling and Russo, so there wasn't full coverage for the month. But what we saw in August was we saw the arrival of Heather Smith. So that's good news, bad news. The good news is we have another provider, but Heather is really coming in to replace Dave Walls. So that's good that we have a new provider. Good we have a provider that can meet our community needs and the facility needs, but it's going to take her a little while to ramp up and to get to where she's producing, on a comparable full-time basis as say the locums. Dr. Ware had a little bit of uptick in her visits. It went up to 150. The good news, the further good news, I guess, of August was that Dr. Jensen had a big jump in his patients. He saw 50 patients during the month, as opposed to 13 and 38 the prior 2 months. And Dr. Bill Watson saw a comparable amount from his previous month. He saw 11 patients. He's here 1 day a month. So also we saw a continued increase in telehealth. Going back to June, we had 10 telehealth visits, went to 20 in July and 17 in August. So a little bit of an increase in the utilization of telehealth. But there was
I'm sorry to interrupt. Is that for our specialty visits?
It's nutritional and it's therapy.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, Steve, go ahead.
That's all right. And then the walk-in clinic was down a little bit. So, who knows what to say about that. So again, August was 720. Bottom line though is that we still have 3 providers in our scheduled primary clinics right now: Dr. Russo, Heather Smith, and Dana Ware. And then we have Steen Jensen and Watson. Steen once a week and Bill Watson once a month. And then we have Steve Hayden in the clinic. So Ken, I don't know if there's questions or comments out of that, or you want me to look at something further?
No, I appreciate that, Steve, very much. It's helpful. It's encouraging. The only comment I'd make is I'd be curious to track it month to month, year over year
Definitely.
as well.
And the year over year, it exists in CPSI, the prior year. Do you want to trend that here? My comment is this, I've said this before to this board. When we have providers in this community that are accepting patients, okay, we have patients and they've got a good attitude and the medicine's good. We have people wanting to return to Seneca. They want to repatriate back to Seneca. It's a matter of getting providers that are committed to the community full-time, not locum, although Dr. Russo for locums, people like him a lot. And these numbers reflect, August numbers reflect Heather barely getting going, just barely starting her practice and getting people, Dr. Russo barely coming back. So I think this is reflective of an upward trend. We have Dr. Greeley that's going to be starting here. He'll be here 3 to 4 days a month, only small practice, but I think he'll develop a great practice. So this is reflective of what we can do when we get providers and we market. There is a market for it. There is a desire to come back, and we will see these numbers continue to climb as long as we can create stability and keep on pushing on where we are today, including specialty.
Are we seeing fewer days where there is not a provider in the walk-in clinic?
No. I'm very aware of it too.
Yeah.
I think that's.
But keeping in mind that we don't shut it down anymore, or we're not going to shut it down anymore. Every new provider that comes in here, in my conversation with them, says you will have a rotation of the walk-in when there's not a walk-in provider. Here's your calendar. Yes, it's full. Sorry, but we'll round robin patients through the primary care. There will be no more. I'm going to get it to the point as we bring new people on, where the expectation is that it's not just your practice. When there's no walk-in provider, you will have round robin.
Yeah.
So
I think shutting the doors is the fastest route to discouraging people from coming back.
I guarantee it.
Right.
So
Well, the benefit to them of participating in the walk-in clinic too is potentially increasing their patient base. Someone comes in and sees them as a provider.
that is
and they may
exactly
go
what's
back and see
happening.
them.
They'll come in to walk in and they'll go see Heather, and they're like, Heather asked the question, do you have a doctor? No, well, why don't we do this? And if they like them, then that's a good thing. The other thing is, I want, as I walk into the walk-in clinic, I want the question to be, can we establish you? We have physicians or providers taking patients. That's been the biggest problem for a long time. We've got providers, but they're closed practices. So it's not a beg, borrow, steal anymore. They're incentivized now to build their practice. So I think we're turning that corner. Service here, we're turning that corner, and we're just going to keep pushing hard on the clinic. Because that's really what we can control more of. Can't control the ER, hard to control inpatient. And the other piece is the swing program. We have, I'll be talking to Steve when he gets back about, we're going to be doing a heart search for an OT, and we got to get our swing program just buzzing. So
Well,
that's
that's
the plan.
encouraging. Steve, I appreciate your attention to that, and I'm gonna assume that we'll track this very carefully over the months ahead.
It's the future. It's what we have to do. Yeah.
So I assume there are some sort of admin dashboards and sort of, with everything.
Oh, there's some, I'm sure you follow,
That was
it'll
amazing.
be about, it'll shadow last year.
Yeah, they're great, a great snapshot.
Yeah.
Those dashboards.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you very much.
We really appreciate that additional detail around our clinic numbers. It's very helpful for us to have a sense of where we are with that.
Yeah, that's a core measure. I mean, there's probably nothing more important to us than those numbers, but yeah. Hey, just real quickly, I had a couple other items not related to the August report. Quickly, the USD update. The only thing I want to add to that is thanking Jerry Nielsen and Sean McKenzie for pushing it the last few yards in my absence. So very much appreciate what you two did to help me through that. The fiscal year ended 6/30/24 budget. So Kristen Corrett, our accounting supervisor, and Judy Klein have been working on the expense side of the budget. And it looks like, based upon the last conversation I had with Kristen, that everything's in for the expenses. So I really need to just drop in the revenue. So I think we're still on track for a special meeting in October. I don't have a date for you guys. Once I'm certain about the timing of that availability, I'm thinking the week before the board meeting, early in that week before the regular scheduled board meeting, I can make a presentation to you all and then go back and make any changes and then take it to the full board at the regular meeting for just essentially an approval. Well, I would hope the full board would be available for the special meeting to go through the budget in detail, but then to just bring it to the board with the changes and for an approval would be my plan.
Steve, Rich had talked about possibly doing a finance committee meeting, like official one with a review of it along with our cash flows for the project. Would you want to do that separate, or would you want to do that as part of the special meeting? You don't have to tell me now. I just
no. I just trying to make sure I was on mute or not. Yes, that'd be great. That would be great. That I would think we'd have enough time. We have to realize that meeting's probably going to run upwards of 2 hours. The budget in and of itself would probably be around an hour or so of time, and then if we put in some other items, just add it from there. But if everyone can commit up to 2 hours, then yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, yeah, I'm pretty sure he said that he's going to be back up here in October. So let me get a hold of him and we'll see if we can get these set.
Yeah, I'm really supportive of trying to pull those things out of the regular board meeting, just because it takes so much time, and we have a lot to talk about otherwise at meetings, and so anything we can put in there would be great.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, so phase fund provider relief. I'll be submitting the report in the next 2 days. So we're good there. Long-term care billing update. Pretty much covered that. Private pay statements and portal. Again, I really appreciate. I wish I'd heard all of the positive comments that the community member shared about the statements they're receiving now, and we really, again, the team has worked incredibly hard on that, and that's such a priority for us to put out timely, accurate, understandable statements. So that's absolutely great to hear. The only Cerner update I have is that we've had a couple conversations about some assistance with some of the coding at the hospital, and also some of the workflow, the physician workflow, that things that we're experiencing. And I guess just more to follow on that. We're just trying to see the best way to help our staff through this continued challenging time, and get our process in place so that we can operate as expected and not have to continually deal with issues that are hopefully resolvable in some manner, whatever that might end up being. So more to follow there. And that's all I have with that. And that's the end of that report. I sent you guys this R1 report. This is the way their report's going to come in each month. I like it. I hope it's somewhat understandable to you guys, because it just like with the HRG report, it's a lot of information. But if we go, this is really the crux of the information. And it's kind of like we had an executive summary on the other one. This is not dissimilar to HRGs. Probably the biggest thing though is that until we get further along down the road, so to speak, if we get a certain number of months worth of data in there, that we're not going to be able to utilize targets in all measures just yet. So that's why you see the targets column kind of incomplete or empty, or not having numbers there. We do have the target for AR days. 47 is our ultimate target. That's kind of mean to put it against current numbers. And August was the first month where we had 90 days worth of revenue. Well, close to it, very close to it. And so that's why we dropped in an AR days target there. Insurance.
Real quick, Steve, I think maybe Rich is trying to join online.
Hey, Steve, while we're letting Rich in, the only thing that I would ask of this report is that they would blow it up a little bit bigger. It's a bit of an eye chart. It's a little bit of an eye chart.
I was zooming in on it on my.
Yeah, and maybe just my old eyes, but if it were blown up a little bit, that'd be great.
All right.
Are we used to seeing the full denial rates, or used to being presented with that data before? Under the cash posting and denials? Is that a metric that we? Okay.
And Rich, are you with us now? Rich?
Mr. Rydell, are you with us? There.
Shows him on, maybe he's still working on getting connected.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead, Steve.
Okay.
I'm here, but I can't be involved officially.
Right, well.
Okay, well,
Okay,
he can still listen.
I'm
Ask
listening.
questions. You can ask
I'm
questions too, you just can't vote on anything, but we've already passed that
Right.
part.
Yeah,
Right.
Okay, again, was Shelley's question whether or not that we would normally see the denials down at the bottom there in that
Yes.
category? Was there a quick?
Yes.
yes,
Yes, so I see an uptick then for August under denial.
Yes. Yeah, and I think that's just indicative, if you will, of the volume of claims that we're sending out and working our way through the specific issues we have with claims that we need to fix, like we were talking about, that will send out a claim and it'll get denied. The one that there it is. So probably the most significant thing we're facing right now is that in that second category, boy, you're right about the Oh, DNFB and clean claims rate. So our unbilled AR, so they were nice not to put the target in there. The unbilled AR, typically our target is around 5 or 6 days. It's at 24 days. And this is what we were talking about, is that the next slide goes into it in a little bit of detail. But what it really is about is that because of some of our workflow process, that we're having to manually intervene in claims where we shouldn't be having to do it. One of the strengths, if you will, there you go. One of the strengths of the Cerner system is that if you set everything up right, it all just flows through. Well, yes, if you set it up right and then everything is done the way it's supposed to be done, then yes, it all flows through. So that's not happening. And that's where I said that we're looking to get some assistance with that, whether it's intervening in our workflow process, or helping coding with the backlog, because boy, man, coding is the buck stops with them. The claims get there and they have to go through every single claim to determine that it has all the information and is complete. Same thing with what we call revenue integrity is another place where they do some review of the claims to make sure that all the charges are in there. But right now it's kind of flowing through and ending up with coding, and they're having to touch a lot more claims than we would like them to be having to touch. We need them to just apply their codes and send it on down the way. So again, two things. Help with the workflow that's causing that, which is not the way we would do it. And the coding staff have done a great job of accumulating issues. And so we have a lot of information. It's then just making those things happen.
But Steve, is the primary issue here with the ED physicians, what they're doing, or is this happening in the clinic too? Where is the biggest challenge?
Yeah, I think it's more prevalent in the ED, but what's happened is we also had issues we've had issues in the clinics that we think we've overcome. And again, the stuff in the clinic was a lot to do with, again, the build and the setup, and how the physicians were actually trained or understanding. Yes, we all get training, but I like to get trained 2 or 3 times, or I'm not one of those people that learn on the first time, or not everything on the first time. So I understand that.
Let me ask this question. Do we think it would be helpful for a laminated cheat sheet for our ED physicians?
We worked on some of that stuff with the docs. It is, we're really struggling with the infrequent loans.
That's it, and I was going to say that.
Mhm.
I think that the key here is not having locums, stabilizing our physicians in the ER, and then really working on them to understand the flow. Dr. Nielsen, for instance, has a great flow. You're not going to see a lot of things falling off the deep end on that one. But and so you've got a pattern. So if we had stabilized ER doctors, they could learn that pathway, and then we'd be capturing at the front end a lot more.
Mhm.
So yeah, it does have a lot to do with our locums.
Do we have a super user in the ED?
We've got the super user, a doctor super user.
No, another staff member who could help.
I live there on my.
Yeah, Brian is right here in the room. He looks there a lot.
No, but I'm not talking about, I mean, a clinician. Is there a nurse that could help?
Well, nurses do not chart like doctors, so no, it's a
Yeah,
different.
but nurses can be super users, right?
No, we have a doctor that's a super user. Dr. Nielsen is outstanding.
But Dr. Nielsen doesn't work 24/7.
Well, neither do nurses. So, okay.
I'm done.
No, we do. We're paying a lot of attention to this. We're trying to build some muscle memory into the department. Yeah, there are super users that have been identified.
So, just say something here. We had this issue at where I used to work. And I think it was Cerner provided us with some AI intelligence
Very specific.
where, before they completed and signed off their documentation, it would comb through their documentation, find the areas of risk, highest risk,
Yeah.
and then flash it at the doctor.
Yes, yes. So there is that portion is very expensive. It might also look at that.
Paid you a lot of money. I mean,
One of the big workflows is problem list. Getting the problem list initially established first. That's the workflow. The problem is there when you do your orders, your labs, your x-rays and everything, it attaches the problem to those. The docs go through and then they put the problem in, it's not attached to those orders. So that's what Shell's doing a lot of collection right there. The doctor thinks, what the problem? But he didn't put it in early enough. So the system automatically attaches those problems to the lab. So it is really getting there. You know, sometimes they don't know what the problem is when the patient originally labs as well. The problem may change from the initial infection of the patient to what they're getting discharged at.
And you got to put that in right away.
Right, but sometimes that's gonna change. Shell's gonna have to fix it on the back end because that primary diagnosis will change. They have to be attached.
This is very important to us. We will continue to push on this work.
Yeah, I think it's just good incentive to get full-time docs in the emergency department.
And you know, kind of what we see with that is with Schilling and then Russo, the volume that they're seeing, the muscle memory is built up. Like they're able to see that volume of patients. And get through it.
When you come into our emergency room, you know, twice in 2 days in a month, and you're 8 other places that have different electronic health records, you don't build that muscle memory, right? So it is really about a stable workforce, in my opinion. And of course, staying on top of it.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. And Shell does a great job of doing that, and Carla feeds it to me, and then I go over and sit with the doc, and we're doing a much better job of catching it before the doctor leaves. Like today, we have Dr. Schrepping here. Yesterday was his first day. Shell and Carl looked over what he did. He didn't do the problem list early enough. So we had to go back and catch those. So they're not getting held up for Steve, the billing portion, in the scrubbers.
Good.
Hmm.
Sounds like we're making some progress.
It's a constant.
Yes.
A lot of work.
It's a constant, yeah, and you know, it's billing and it's so different from what the doctors are used to. They're used to seeing the whole patient and then seeing what the problem is. This is kind of flipped it on its head.
We'll continue.
Go ahead, Steve, you have other things to add about the R1 report?
No, I just, other than blowing it up, just real quick, clean claim rate, 60%, our target's 80. We're going to see this number continually rise because there's claims that we were holding for various reasons that will now be able to go out and be accepted by the payer. So this one here we're doing very well with, and I think that's why our days are reasonable, not to target, but reasonable.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to ask was what our target was. You said 80?
It's 80, 85 is what we're generally shooting for. So we're not too far off because there's a lot of things that are bringing this number down that I believe have resolved themselves, and we'll see what September should look better.
We're almost in the green. Nudge it a little, emergency.
Someone bumped the table. Yeah, if you guys go through this, especially Jerry and Rich and Ken, who, boy, here's where it gets deep. So, this is it's great information, but it's a lot. So anyway, what you guys want to see, but I was very pleased. I really like this. Oh, this is a good one here too. So this just kind of shows the change from month to month. So we can see where our, on the left side are our financial classes that we built. And then you can see their aging from discharge not final billed, through for the different aging categories. And you can see on the top is is the numbers for the month of August, and then down below is the change for help me think, from the previous month, July to August. So some really good stuff in here. Maybe if we just work.
Steve, I did notice in that financial class column, there's one down toward the bottom that says blank. And so I don't know if that was supposed to be something they missed.
Yeah, that's a,
I just thought that was
there's,
a lot.
yeah, that's another thing about Cerner is that they use words like blank and default, is when the way that the account was registered, or the way that the transaction went through, if it's not mapped to something in there, it'll just kick it into a default or blank category. So
Okay.
we'll look at that.
Is there a page or a field that where the total number of hospital admissions is indicated per month and outpatient visits, or I don't see that here. Where is that?
Yeah, that's not something that we've asked R1 to do for us. This is, all of this is just straight billing and collections and revenue cycle. That information should come from me in my financial report. If we're going to, we have a historical report. Was that Shelley again?
Yes.
If you go back to the June financial report, June 2023, you could see the way that way at the end, there's a tab called stats, and you can see the utilization statistics and how we reported them historically. And again, we may do it differently under lights on, lights out, but that's generally the information that comes through the financial report.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Steve. Any other questions or for Steve?
Bigger print.
It's a bigger print. Thank you, Steve. Appreciate it.
Hey, Cherry.
Yes.
Yeah.
I had one last item, unfortunately, and I won't take up much time. I just wanted to bring forth the information about California class, and just real briefly, because I'm not asking the board to do anything. Information was provided. If someone could just pull up really fast that first page, that's the yeah. So if you just look at that gives you kind of the information. Those of you that are Sherry, I know you are, and our board is older board that's heard me talk about LAIF, which is the local agency investment fund. It's where public entities put their money. It's where the state puts their money, and that's where we put the bulk of our money that we want to obtain a return on. It's a good vehicle. The problem is that they're not very nimble. They don't go long, but they don't go short. So it takes longer for the investments within LAIF to react to the market. And so in the case of this rising interest rate environment, we're now up to about 3.7% that LAIF is earning. And, interest rates, short-term interest rates, investment are anywhere from 4 to 5%, depending on what you're working with. What this class does is that they don't have the same investment philosophy with as LAIF does, mainly because they're not dealing with billions of dollars of money like the state of California's money. So what they do is they're able to react more quickly to interest rate environments, and thus can capitalize, if you will, on growing rate environments, because now their portfolio is earning above 4%, 4.5%. And so we want to look at this as a possible alternative to LAIF, not an entire alternative, but a place to potentially put our money. one of the key things is that they follow what we have in our investment policy. What Leif has is the whatever it is, 5360, the required or the allowed investments for public agencies. So I need to do some more work on this. I need to update our policy. I'd like to bring this back to the board to look at participating in this investment vehicle. So there's a lot of materials there for you. We can talk about it. We can also, Jerry, add this to the finance committee meeting that we're talking about.
Perfect.
Okay. That's it, unless there's questions or comments.
Thank you for that presentation on that, Steve. I think this is a very important thing for us to look at getting into, especially as we're getting our funding sources for our new hospital. Yeah, thank you. Any
Okay.
other questions for Steve on this health in class? Okay, thanks, Steve.
Okay.
All right, next up, Judy, we have your CNO report.
Okay, so, update on COVID, Plymouth County remains in the green zone, so again, this is based on hospital admission levels related to COVID infection. At the time I submitted this report, there were several surrounding counties that had moved into the yellow or medium zone. But since yesterday, many of those counties have come back down into the green zone, so that's good.
That's great.
We know that we have seen a lot of cases in our community over the past month or two, but things are starting to calm back down, it would seem. So we did place our first order for the new monovalent vaccine that is now out. Now that this vaccine has become commercialized, we just our infection and prevention nurse did a survey to try and get a kind of a pulse on how many of our own employees are going to be interested in receiving this. It's not mandated, it's optional. And so we placed an order to cover enough to cover the employees who are interested, as well as for our residents of long-term care. The current price on those are about $115 per dose. And obviously, we're going to offer these for free for any employees who want it. However, because it's commercialized and it is very expensive now, it's not the county just handing it to us anymore. We are advocating for the community to use the local pharmacies that are offering this so that they can have their insurance billed, etc.
The last drug is.
Last drug is here, and yeah, they placed their order as well. And then we're anticipating receiving our flu vaccine, and we'll be getting to offer those to our employees next week. And then we have a drive-through flu clinic in coordination with Plymouth County Public Health coming up on October 25th. And so we usually get a pretty good turnout of our community through the drive-through.
Judy, I have a question.
Sure.
So, there's the COVID or California COVID.gov or whatever website that you can go to. I think it's updated every Friday, and we can put in your county. And last Friday, it showed that we were at 27. Plymouth County was back up to 27% test positivity. Are we seeing that here at Seneca?
So the difficulty with that website is that it's only as good as what gets reported to it.
Right.
And so a lot of what we are hearing is people are testing at home. Now, our own employees, they have to be validated. So if we were to have an employee pop up positive, we have to continue to monitor them ourselves. But there's a lot of people in the community that are testing. We don't really know those numbers.
I wasn't sure if it was like Feather River College, or because I think the students in the schools are mandated to report that, so I wasn't sure if we were seeing that also.
Yeah,
know,
so,
in our
so
clinics
we
or-
will report our own tests that are positive, that it's
Oh,
so
yeah.
easily accessible
yeah.
to get, these kits, you know,
Yeah,
as it
sure.
should be.
Oh, sure.
And I would suspect that what's ever posted on the California website is low because no self-reporting.
Oh, sure.
I
Sure.
think the question really is, are we seeing really ill patients with COVID at our facility? That's
We've
the
had
question.
one
Well-
hospitalization in the last month, for COVID.
Okay.
Yeah.
I hear
And she
about
is-
this in our community.
That patient has recovered.
Mhm.
COVID. Yeah,
Thank you.
so thankfully, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, people are sick. I mean, they're reporting that it's kicking their butt,
Mhm.
but it's not requiring hospitalization, which is very good.
Right.
But it does make us nervous that we saw the spike in the summertime, and we know a lot of that is probably because of the influx and that we all attended a lot of
Events,
super
right.
events and all of that. But it does make us very nervous as we go into what's probably gonna be a harsh winter
Mhm.
with RSV and the flu and COVID.
Right.
And so, you know,
And snow.
yeah. Ugh, is it really gonna snow again this year?
Thank you.
Continuing education, we are bringing, the mobile intensive care nurse training to Seneca. That's being hosted, per our request by NorCal EMS. And
That's
so,
amazing.
what that does is it, trains our ER nurses, to be able to, they will learn all of the paramedic protocols, for ALS and BLS. And so if a paramedic, unit was coming to us and, they needed guidance, the nurse can actually give them orders, their standing protocols. It will also, the nurses are required to do some ride-along time. So they have to learn the contents of the back of an ambulance and where everything is and how everything works. And hopefully they will get some advanced life support contacts. If they don't get any contacts during their ride, then the paramedic is required to run through scenarios with them so that they could, especially for the big ones, you know, our STEMI stroke and trauma protocols. So, I think they're really going to enjoy that class. It's pretty fun.
How many of our nurses will be able to attend this?
4.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Cerner update, as Sean said, we can start, bringing you guys some snapshots. I don't know what you want to see, but, I'm illustrating one thing that we're looking at, for nursing right now is our, medication barcode scan rates, which is a major patient safety, that we really, are utilizing Cerner to improve our patient safety, tools that we have. And we're doing really well. And so we're giving the nurses a lot of positive feedback. As you can see, month over month, we are really making gains. Our threshold for this will be 95%. That's where we want to get to. But we're already in with the national average of Cerner, but that's not good enough for us. So we will shoot for 95% compliance, and in that 5%, we will continue to do audits to find out what was the issue. Was the scanner broken? Was it truly an emergency? Because really there should be very few reasons why, unless you're, you know, doing CPR and pushing epi, there really shouldn't be too many factors why you can't go ahead and scan your patient and scan your medication. That is the gold standard for us. So. But, you know, again, we're starting to get these meaningful reports, we're getting feedback to our nurses, and, you know, we're gonna be happy to share whatever you guys want to see here in this meeting.
Yeah, and not only for patient safety, this gets to us being able to bill for what we're using as well, right?
Well, there's a lot less backtracking, because it's going to capture the medication. What happened, the way that we set up our system is the charges drop upon administration. Not from the time you pull it out of the Pyxis, because something could happen.
Yeah.
And the person may not get the medication. So that causes all kinds of paperwork if you do it that way. So this is, you scan it just as you're administering it, and then the charge automatically drops. And then we check that daily to make sure that we are seeing all the charges drop for what we did the day before.
Out of curiosity, how For the scanning itself, I'm curious how that works. Are there multiple handheld devices that we have?
Every one of our, mobile devices so they're doing in-room charting now. So they don't have to think and go back to the desk. They are charting right there. We have barcode readers on.
Okay.
So boom,
Yep,
boom,
yep.
it just it's right at the patient bedside.
And it's wireless, so there's no.
It's wireless.
Reason to, say I can't reach through.
Great.
So there's no forgetting to chart something. You're right there. Do it right there.
Right.
And
Pretty
if,
fancy.
if they don't
It is.
scan, they have to say a reason why they didn't scan. So if they say the scanner is broken, the next step is they have to file a ticket.
Mm.
And so if there's no ticket filed, then,
Was the scanner really broken?
yeah. So, or was the battery dead or what have you, but there has to be follow-up for choosing certain reasons why.
And we bought these devices, for the Cerner Go Live, but they go with us to the new facility.
Yeah.
They
they're
transport with
beautiful.
us.
Yeah, brand new stuff. It's
Thank
really
you.
great. See, Donna talked a lot about medical equipment planning. One thing when we get to our budget meeting that we will need to discuss is that we have, large ticket items for the lab, for imaging, for everywhere, for the new hospital. But there will be some items, very large ticket items that we probably will not be able to wait 3 years before we get. But they're budgeted in the new hospital, but we need them for the old hospital. And so we're gonna have to sort through that process and how that looks like kind of on our financial spreadsheets, et cetera. And I'm sure Steve has it all figured out, but I don't. So, but just know that there will be some needed, large capital purchases that will have to happen within the next 3 years prior to the move.
And these will be items that we will move over with us?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. We did admit this is not on my report, but we did admit 2 new residents to our long-term care unit over the past 2 days. So one male resident, one female, and then we have another male resident who we're just waiting for his Medi-Cal to get lined up and come through. And so we anticipate he will probably move in the next, probably before November. So, and then that will only leave us with one vacancy. And one female vacancy in the unit, and it's all prettied up now for the most part, and so it's kind of exciting. The staff room
Get back to our
is done,
senses.
and Tessa's just doing a wonderful job.
Which will also increase our, improve our financials. So.
We did graduate our CNA students, and we had a pinning ceremony a couple of weeks ago in front of the long-term care unit, and they're just waiting for their state mandated testing before they are truly certified nursing assistants. Right now, they can work as nursing assistants in the interim.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, let's see, we met with this is not on my report either. So much happens in the time that we have to submit our report. So busy. But we met with Dr. Jensen today because he would like to increase the number of days that he gives us each week, because we are starting to get a backlog, especially for people needing their colonoscopy and that sort of thing. And so, and also Dr. Watson wants to give us a 2nd day per month. And so we're coordinating with the 2 of them of how that can work out and where we have the staffing. So, but Dr. Watson is getting a backlog. He, as Steve said, I think he saw 11 patients. Last month, he saw 14 patients. His last day he was here. That's a lot to see in 1 day of clinic.
Yeah.
And so, we're gonna give him some additional time so he can, so that's really cool.
That is
His
great,
practice is
yeah.
building.
And do we think that Dr. Jensen's increased volume and need is because of people's delayed procedures, or do we know?
I think it's a combination of things. We've been doing some marketing. Chelsea's been helping us with that to market to the community that, you don't have to have a referral to get your colonoscopy done. And so, and also we're going through a backlog of our own established patients to see if they're due and giving them a call and seeing if we can get them scheduled.
That's wonderful. That's
Yeah.
really good. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. And then the regulatory update is just that we received notification a couple of weeks ago that CDPH is so far behind in their surveys that they've hired a 3rd party survey
Wow.
company to come in to get them caught up with the 450 surveys in California that are due.
Have they ever done that?
Not really sure.
Wow. That's
So
interesting.
the interesting, I mean, there's a lot of interesting things. I'm hoping the Chico office is still caught up because we had our long-term care survey last October. And we know those people, we work with them and they were very friendly and helpful and supportive. And so it's kind of scary to have the outside ones because you don't know what kind of flavor you're going to get when they come in.
Right.
Because some surveyors really like to come in with a hammer, and we like the kinder, friendlier ones a lot better. So, and also they said they can come in after hours, they can come on holidays and weekends, and all of this. So I pulled the clinical teams together to talk about how we would respond to that. Say if they showed up on a Saturday at 4 p.m., like who's around and who can respond. And so we're building a plan for.
Good.
And that's all I have, unless you have any questions.
I have a question, for the drive-through food clinic, and I'm just wondering if that's an opportunity to provide some little leaflets on physician availability at the clinic. And
There you go.
That's a good suggestion.
Very good suggestion.
Token go and we
Yeah.
like that.
I think that's really, yeah.
We get Joseph, it's been a meeting up with Joseph about that.
Yeah, that's a great
That's a
idea.
great
Every
idea.
opportunity, you know, I
Now-
think a lot of that happened at our wellness. We had the wellness clinics last week. Where people could come in and get low cost lab work and that sort of thing. And so we were doing some kind of like that kind of promotion there. But yeah,
Maybe both new physicians and colon screening.
yeah,
Yeah.
Pushing on our
Love
colon
that.
screening. Yeah.
great idea. We will do that.
Good
Thank
idea.
you.
Thank you, Judy.
Thank you.
Really appreciate all of your work.
Thank you.
Okay, so moving on to item number 17, which is our individual departmental reports. So if we don't have any compliance or privacy incident as reported in second and third quarter of 23, which is great.
You know, I did want to, I'm sad that Charlene didn't get her reporting, because we had a compliance meeting this week. And she reported on telephone orders and verbal orders for physicians, and the rate has gone down dramatically.
Good. That's
Because
fantastic.
the nurses were strongly encouraged to not take telephone and verbal orders, that they needed to learn the Cerner system and put their own orders in, and it seems to be working pretty well.
Great.
So
That's wonderful.
that was a great report. I don't want
Yes, thank you. Okay, next up we have Brian's IT report, which I was telling Brian earlier, I very much appreciate your detail on here.
Yeah, there's a couple of things that, like Jude said.
Of course.
So then, and we have to be careful that we're gonna work on what is information overload. Because I'm gonna show you something that
Yeah,
potentially can overload. Immunizations, that's a no-brainer. We got a relatively unpopulated system here. This is nothing more than, this happens in the background. It's air click, all our immunizations are in the history of the patient. Sac Valley HIE is just around the corner, so we are in.
So just from an acronym perspective, can I just
Yeah.
help the board? The HIE is the Health Information Exchange, so this is where we deliver succinct data into this repository. And it's available by other entities if they want to pull up the patient and look at information. They can do it from that central location rather than, so it's kind of connecting the dots, sorry. Yeah.
So, and part of that though is using registration and education to make sure that, because we're not in state, we have to ask the question to the patient of registration. What is the value of this? And now I'm gonna show you some things that we start presenting to the patients for value. Outside of, immunizations working through, well, I get that after, but the Patrick Ambra, with Edmo is built. There's the final stages of testing, and showing we agree that we're gonna pull stuff back in if we need to pull images back in from Edmo back to us. The Cerner multi-factor authentication, we have been holding off giving remote access because there was no multi-factor authentication, even though the rest of Cerner was doing it in the world, we wanted to make sure we were safe.
Secure.
That went live Monday. So Dr. Schilling had a couple outstanding, reports you need to file and gave him the multi-factor, you can do it remotely. We have another doc, near doc that's not coming back for a while, so we'll be able to narrow down that stuff for Steve and Shell too.
Okay.
The docs won't have to, wait till they
Is
come
it
back
easier? Yeah.
to get things done. Evidence, legacy, the old CPSI system, we put the new server in the rack today, we'll be copying that over for our 7 to 10 year retention period we need for the old data and new, hardware, so we don't have to worry about that going forward. Next Thursday, we implement the new endo equipment, new documentation for endo, Dr. Jensen. All set to go live, and then we're probably about 60 days away from that interface for that to take away any notification, intervention of getting the reports back in the server and also taking up the ADT registration part into the probation center. Printer management, we talked about before, kind of hold up, we're dealing with a contract on the printers, the vendor, we can settle the contract with the leasing contract, it's a little more complicated. But we are going through and doing a diligence on the MFAX, electronic faxing portion of that as we work through that, because that was excluded from the printer contract. So we don't want to hold up on that. So one of the things that since go live, so here's Commonwealth, which is very similar to the HA. This is a Cerner, well, not Cerner, it's outside of the Epic world, basically sharing information together. This was a patient that presented the ER. All this information is not in our system. It's from other elsewhere. This is the patient opted into Commonwealth. Because this patient opted into Commonwealth, all this information would be available to the ER doc to
See,
look at.
that was the question that I was gonna ask you. I said, we're sending our information there. Are we able to access?
Yeah, we have access to.
So this is an educating population why to participate in the Commonwealth.
Maybe that's part of our flyer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with that, this is the, yeah. So little old Seneca here. This is where we've been retrieving and sending data throughout the country since we went live.
Texas,
Wow.
Florida.
That's amazing.
Wow.
I love that you can see that
Yeah,
too.
so it's not just, we have requested 302, but 650 other facilities have requested information from us.
That's
So,
really,
so
really,
it's
really
about
interesting.
making sure the patient's taken care of, and we're
That's
contributing.
impressive.
that.
Continuity of care
Yeah.
is really,
Yeah,
really
that's
brings forward.
fascinating.
Yes,
It really is.
Yeah.
So is during registration that the patient is consenting
that's correct.
to participate in?
Correct, that's correct.
And
Both
so
from
it's
HIE.
Yes.
Commonwealth.
So we have a script that
Yes.
I got from another
Yes.
certain hospital. That at registration, sometimes they don't
Right,
want to do it, but if they're in the ER, there's a script, a follow-up script, why this is beneficial for you. If you showed up unconscious
right.
in the ER, or you're on vacation, you
Check
showed up
out your
unconscious.
meds, got your elements,
But this information is available.
So
The other thing for us that is available is that an automatic lookup of the opioid surveys.
While I was looking that up, I can tell you that there's been some legislation, there's been some discussion that if CMS is paying the bill, if you're if you're Medicare, Medi-Cal, Medicaid, whatever, that they are not going to ask you about opting in, you're going to be opted in
Oh, good.
immediately. Because the government's the payer, the government needs the information.
A lot of
They
states
want
are
continuity
continuity care. Just you're opted in, you have to take the steps.
Well, a lot of it's fraud based too, like, was this replicated there, was it replicated here? So
Yeah.
it's gonna be an automatic opt-in if you have government insurance coming forward.
But again, it becomes a physician overload. I think that dashboard where the physician can look and see what he wants to do, we don't necessarily want to pull all that stuff.
No, we don't want to pull it.
We want to give them, one patient I happened to grab had 46 different documents that were available from different facilities.
Is mental health documentation?
No.
No, I was gonna say.
It's perfect.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
I thought-
But this is also something that's built into Cerner for the ED that we really haven't educated the docs on yet, but we're going to. No intervention at all. It's the opioid administration looks at that patient and tells you, not just here, if they're drug searchers, and what they've had prescribed and how long ago, and it becomes a measurable for us for, doctors has to put that box in, mark review. They no longer have to go into the state website, search for the patient, look up the patient.
HIV status, is that Protected also?
Any kind of infectious disease is protected, but there is a registry that they've been working on for both behavioral health and specific highly protected information where physicians need to be able to put a reason for, and it breaks the glass. It's called breaking the glass. So it's a high audit, basically. It's just a high audit registry. We know who goes in there and they have to put in why. And then sometimes it's adjudicated and they send a code similar to MFA. They're sent a code, enter this code. So it's actually looked at on real time. And they look at the document, it's everything. Then they send them a code, they put the code in and they're in.
Wow, nice.
So that's to protect people from snooping,
Mhm.
right? Together. So, sorry, they're still working on that.
And then, what was that? We just were looking at about the MFA, the 50s of the year.
That's gonna be, yeah, so, yeah, the department, or the county is about to contract with a new vendor for 5150 hold release through Telesite. And I responded to their contract today and asked a lot of questions about service level agreements and things like that, so.
Good.
What's in that contract, so we're hoping to.
Yeah, but the ability now for us to service RPM on remote.
What is our status? You asked this earlier. Are we tracking obviously the number of people on a psychiatric hold or potential psychiatric hold that are coming to the ED?
Are we tracking it? No, but
As
we
far
would
as,
be
like,
able
number of
to, if that's the
hours
reason for
with this
admission.
day.
Yeah.
If that's the problem statement, 5150 law enforcement or 5150 self-admit. We will be able to run that on Cerner because that's the problems list. We can find out how many.
It's for me, a point of curiosity, but I would be really interested in what that volume looks like.
So would we.
Well, and length of stay, that was enlightening.
Well, yeah,
Well,
like to stay in terms of how long does that move, take to move?
How many hours, yeah,
Right, from admission to discharge.
yeah.
Because they're not admitted usually, they're just obviously.
I mean, daily, when I come in and I bring Cerner up just to see what's happening and what happened in the last 48 hours or what have you. It's real time giving you what the ED average length of stay is based on, the previous 24 hours or what have you. It's there. It's a matter of us pulling it. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's nice to see.
Discussion point.
Love data.
Uh-oh, I can see rabbit hole.
Oh, no, this is gonna be worse than Sudoku for me. It'll be like Sudoku. I'll be coming. It's gonna be distracting actually, getting work done. Okay,
Set a time parameter.
yeah. You only get so much screen time.
Yeah, thank you, Brian.
Thanks,
Anyone
Brian.
else have any
Great
questions?
stuff,
for Megan?
Brian.
No, it's great
Thank
work.
you.
Thank you.
And Judy, I was just thinking before we move on to the next thing,
Yeah.
the Ambra, maybe there's a different way for Dr. Watson to be able to view images because he has access to the packs on his.
That was gonna be great.
And those packs.
Because all we have to do is say, look this up.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay,
So next up, we have our HR report, Denny, which I went through and I again, of course, love the newsletter and I liked your feel in the newsletter. It was fun.
You're right
And,
about Dr. Walls. Really nice.
yeah, and I saw that Marion has 27 years with us,
Wow.
September, that's amazing. And I love the employee of the month, I just love this whole thing, I
Mhm.
really do. I think they have a question for you. Oh, no, I just also wanted to say, I really, really enjoyed the fact that you guys included the newspaper article about Dr. Walls in here, because I thought that was amazing. I've seen it before, but it's been a while, so I thought that was really, really nice thing to have for our staff to be able to see as well. So I don't know if anyone has any questions for Denny. Okay, then we will move on to our marketing PR. Chelsea put quite a long and detailed report together because she's got a lot going on. And I very much appreciated her report as well. I don't know if anyone had any questions or comments on hers. Okay. Then I think we are ready to go into closed session. Will we break? Yeah. Are we paused, Brian?
Yep.
Thank you.
Here's your drop off.
He did? Okay. Well. Let me try text.